Did you know that history's greatest genius was kicked out of school for being called addled and ended up as the man who stole the future? Today, you'll discover how Thomas Edison's aggressive stubbornness can be the key for you to escape mediocrity and finally start printing money.
If you stay until the end, I'll show you the dirty secret of the war of currents that history books hide, and how to apply this relentless mindset to your life today. Get ready, because what we're about to reveal here will either light up your mind or blow your fuses for good.
Man, imagine Thomas Edison today. He'd be that kid HR hates because he wouldn't last a week in a cubicle, but then he'd pop up on the cover of Forbes. The guy was kicked out of school because his teacher thought he was addled. Can you believe it? The dude was practically deaf, and the education system back then, which already sucked, tossed him out like futureless garbage. But look, his mindset wasn't about being a victim. While most of us cry over a red receipt on WhatsApp, he saw deafness as a source of focus. With no noise to distract him, he just dove into his purpose of transformation.
Yeah, Daniel, his resilience was bordering on psychopathy, let's be real. He didn't try to make the light bulb, he decided he was going to bend physics until it obeyed. You know those people who take a weekend course and already think they're the next millionaire? Edison laughed at that. He said success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. The guy failed thousands of times. Today, people would say he needed therapy and self-care, but he just needed more batteries and fewer annoying people giving their opinions. He had an optimism that bordered on delusion, treating every error as a step toward victory.
And speaking of delusion, look at the master's creativity. He didn't just invent the product, he invented the market. He didn't just want light, he wanted to be the icon of progress and, of course, make a ton of money from it. He was the pure essence of discipline. If you want an example of how not to be a wimp, watch The Men Who Built America on history or read The Vagabonds. He didn't have time for an identity crisis. He knew exactly who he was, the guy who was going to light up the world, even if he had to leave everyone in the dark first to make them appreciate the service.
Oh, Daniel, you and your fetish for savage capitalism. But it's true, his mindset was one of aggressive growth. He used self-knowledge not to meditate with incense, but to know that his greatest strength was his stubbornness. Want to be like him? Stop reading gratitude posts and start reading Napoleon Hill's book, The Law of Success. Edison is living proof that being abnormal in childhood is the first step toward not being a mediocre adult. He turned school rejection into a fuel for self-improvement that no one could extinguish.
Speaking of extinguishing, we haven't even started talking about his fight with Tesla. Imagine this guy's personality dealing with a Serbian genius who talked to pigeons. Edison was the guy of heavy investment, of practical results. He wasn't there for pure, beautiful science. He was there for the development of an empire. He was the classic example that if you have total focus, even your lack of hearing becomes a leveraging tool. But hey, Karen, did all that focus turn him into a Disney villain? The next step will show that being nice was definitely not in his briefing. Man, if Edison were alive today, he wouldn't just be a CEO. He'd be that shark from Shark Tank who humiliates the entrepreneur just for sport. His leadership was based on a very simple concept. I own the ball. If you don't play my way, I'll deflate it. The guy created the world's first industrial research lab in Menlo Park, but it wasn't some spiritual collaboration retreat. It was a productivity plant where he used his persuasion to convince geniuses to work 20 hours a day, while he kept the fame and the money.
Totally, Daniel. And his communication? Pure aggressive marketing. When Nikola Tesla showed up with alternating current, which, let's face it, was technically superior, Edison didn't use active listening to understand his colleague. No way. He used his influence and proactivity to launch a smear campaign worthy of small-town politics. He went as far as electrocuting animals in public squares to prove the competitor's energy was dangerous. Now that's what I call ethical negotiation, right? Either you buy my bulb or the neighbors will fry your cat.
Bizarre, right? But look at the leveraging that generated. He was the master of social persuasion. He knew that for success to be complete, he needed to be a public icon. He sold progress as if he were the sole bearer of light. If he had an Instagram, he'd be the king of mental triggers. He didn't have empathy for Tesla, he had a thirst for victory. He's the classic example of someone who'd rather have control than be right. He treated the market like a game of Risk, where leadership was exercised through the power of the brand.
And speaking of brands, let's open a quick debate. Gen Z versus Gen Edison. Today we talk about humanized leadership, psychological safety, and days off. Edison would probably give a sarcastic laugh and send everyone back to the lab. Whose side are you on? Do you prefer a cute boss who delivers nothing, or a results tractor like Edison who changes history but leaves you with burnout? Write in the comments if you're Team Peace and Love or Team Rocket has no reverse.
Good one, Karen. The fact is, Edison's negotiation with the world was, I give you light and you give me a monopoly. He was a master at turning investment into prosperity through a powerful network of contacts. Want to learn how to influence people? Watch the movie The Current War, or see how General Electric, yes, the giant he helped found, swallowed the market for decades. The guy was a master of leadership through dominance. But do you need to lose your soul to leave a legacy? The next topic on morals is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Daniel, let's talk about ethics, because in Edison's dictionary, that word must have been crossed out with permanent marker. The guy was the master of post-truth before the term even existed. In the War of Currents, he abandoned any sign of integrity to protect his investment. He didn't just want to beat Tesla and Westinghouse, he wanted to socially annihilate them. Where's the transparency in secretly funding the creation of the electric chair just to say the neighbor's current was the execution current? It's a bizarre example of how ego can destroy character.
Yeah, Karen, his sense of justice was pretty selective, wasn't it? He saw himself as the guardian of public responsibility, but behind the curtains, he was a ruthless lobbyist. He used his grandpa inventor personality to manipulate mass opinion. If he were around today, he'd be that CEO preaching sustainability on LinkedIn while cutting all employee benefits at the first sign of a crisis. He believed that progress justified any means, which is a very dangerous mindset for human history.
Exactly. And the worst part is he sold this image of a virtuous example. But hey, here's the question. Is it possible to build a billion-dollar empire while maintaining 100% transparency? We love to criticize the lack of ethics in big shots, but given the first chance to take an advantage, many people do the same. Edison is the mirror of what happens when success becomes a god and justice becomes just a bureaucratic detail. He was the pure essence of industrial Machiavellianism. The ends justify the light bulbs.
Speaking of dubious means, have you seen the movie The Prestige? It perfectly shows that atmosphere of toxic rivalry and lack of character among inventors of that era. Edison was the type of guy who, if he couldn't buy your idea, he'd find a way to sue you until you were broke. His integrity was buried under thousands of patents, many for things he didn't even invent alone, but he registered first because he had more money. He was the master of finders keepers, regardless of who did the work.
It's a classic case of negative moral leveraging. He used his recognition to crush anyone threatening his prosperity. But hey, Daniel, was this dark side what guaranteed his legacy? If he had been a saint, would we still be using candlelight today? Here's the loop. Do we forgive a lack of character in exchange for technological comfort? The next topic on results will show that, despite everything, his numbers are jaw-dropping.
Karen, if we look at Edison's results chart, it looks like a SpaceX rocket, but without the risk of exploding on the pad. The guy registered 1,093 patents. That's not just success, it's a productivity massacre. He turned invention into an assembly line, something Apple does brilliantly today, taking existing technologies, polishing the design, creating an ecosystem, and selling it like it's the cure for cancer. He wasn't just looking for immediate earning, he wanted the multiplying of his legacy on every street corner that had a lamppost.
True, Daniel. He was the master of finance leveraging. While Tesla was dying broke in a hotel room, Edison was building the foundation of American prosperity. His recognition didn't come from being the smartest, but from being the most relentless in his pursuit of income and growth. He created General Electric,
one of the largest companies in the world. That's grassroots corporate sustainability, creating something that survives long after your own death. He wanted to be the icon of progress, and look at that, he did it.
But let's talk about real prosperity. He changed humanity's concept of time. Before him, night was the end of the day. After him, night became the second shift of productivity. The guy literally gave us permission to be 24-hour-a-day workaholics. If you want to see his legacy in practice, you don't need to go to a museum. Just look at your phone screen right now. The infrastructure that allows you to have energy to charge your gadgets started with the investment and stubbornness of this old deaf man.
And the practical lesson here is, the world doesn't pay for what you know, but for what you produce and deliver. Edison is the perfect example that having a brilliant idea is 1%. The rest is sweating it out to generate victory. If you're out there procrastinating on your project for financial independence, know that Edison was there pulling all-nighters in the lab while others were sleeping. He didn't wait for external encouragement. He was his own boost. He didn't just want to be rich, he wanted to be the source.
Yeah, and for those who want to dive deeper into this mindset of brutal success, I recommend the biography Edison by Edmund Morris. It's a masterclass in how discipline beats raw talent 9 times out of 10. The guy left a legacy that is the very foundation of modern civilization. But hey, here's the question to close this block. Is it worth being the most productive man in history if, in the process, you become the villain in the stories of other geniuses? Karen, I think we've finished the main topics here, right? So, after knowing the bright and dark sides of Edison, are you still going to keep making excuses for your lack of results? The guy was deaf, kicked out of school, and still built an empire that lights up your face right now. The moral of the story is clear. The world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards relentless productivity and the courage to be the villain if necessary to protect your legacy.
Exactly. And the question remains, how is your resilience? Do you give up at the first mistake, or do you have the character to try 1,000 times until your idea turns into money? Stop being just a spectator of other people's lives. Use this example of aggressive leadership to awaken your own empowerment. Comment below. If you lived back then, would you be #Team Edison or #Team Tesla? I want to see who here really understands prosperity.
Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because here at PH4U, we don't baby you. We give you the tools for victory. And hey, if you want to start building your own empire, there's a link in the first comment for you to grab your Lego and start materializing your ideas. From which city are you watching this reality check? Write it down.